How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Chief State back on the channel. It's been a couple years, but love to have them back on. And obviously, he can say his name and what he does in the band.
Yep, I'm Frasier. I sing in the band and do a lot of the writing as well, I guess,
There we
and a lot of
go.
the work. There we go.
Well, again, it's great to have Frasier on because the last time, and we were just talking about it moments ago, about how we did an interview in their van when they were touring the States. Feels like eons ago, but yet, glad to see you're just kicking it, still doing the shit, and that's awesome. Um, but I wanted to talk about because I have been going back and trying to get like some of the interviews that people that I liked having on, and obviously really enjoyed having you guys on for the past, I would say between 4 to 5 years now at this point. And you guys had a new record come out in July, if my memory serves me correct, and it's called "Waiting for Your Colors." And I gotta say, I've almost listened to it all the way through because we've been shout outs to Fraser for working through the computer problems, but have given me a chance to listen to almost the entire record. And I had listened to the singles and I was like, man, this is peak Chief State. Um and so I was just like immediately I was like I have to have the guys back on, and to talk about the new record. So I guess my thing to you, Fraser, you also did a tour recently as well. How has the reception been? Just because I know, most people know the pandemic existed and that kind of just wiped away, say goodbye to 2 years. But like, how has the response been in terms of the shows guys went out with, Calling All Captains, which shout out, another great band. How was that process of like going out touring again? I'm sure it must have been stressful, but also at the same point, like equally just like finally now we get to like play the record, we get to like do all of this sort of stuff. So how was that feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible because it's in such a weird time and a lot of that period during the pandemic. Most common question was, "Damn, are we even going to be able to do this again?" So
Sure, sure.
we were extremely grateful to be able to book something and go out again. It's obviously quite difficult being a Canadian band for us to with the visas and everything. So
Hmm.
it was good that we kind of left it to a period where the pandemic had kind of slowed down to a point where we weren't at risk, hopefully, of having to cancel
Sure,
shows.
sure, sure.
Um, but the irony is we did have to cancel shows, but that's because of vehicle issues. But we did what we could to try and make sure we could play as many shows as possible.
Hmm.
It was fantastic, and a lot of that, kind of planning and holding back on this album was due to uh, the reception or the situation we found ourselves in with our last record because we released Tough Love on 27th or 29th of March, like 2020.
Oh,
So 2 weeks in,
oh,
and we never got to play any of those songs for 2 years.
oh,
We had to cancel everything, and it was just a nightmare. And
sure, yeah, yeah.
that was part of the reason why we kind of held off on the release of Waiting for Your Colors and the tour and everything for so long. We had that album completely finished and recorded, like I think, and like mastered and everything.
Hmm.
October, oh sorry, not October, like September 2021. So
Wow.
we held on for
Oh
it for
my
nearly
god.
a year just because, trauma from
Yeah.
releasing Tough Love. Um, but yeah, it was incredible to be able to go out and do that again. And I think it almost felt like there was a bit of that from the crowd as well. A lot of people just happy to be out again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I'm sure everybody was thinking the same thing because the pandemic was pretty intense, obviously, for a
Yeah,
long
yeah, yeah.
time. And people just didn't know what was going to be able to happen.
Yeah.
And I myself was thinking, is anyone even going to go to a show anymore? But I would say, quite the opposite. People need that social aspect, and they
Hmm.
need music. And so I definitely got that kind of impression that there was a lot of people just just stoked to be listening to music again, and that was a lot of the feedback we got. So yeah, it was overall great. Very stressful with the vehicle
Yeah.
shit we went through, but yeah, mostly very good.
That's great to hear because I know like as listening through for Waiting for Your Colors, I was just like, and I love to listen to Tough Love. I know that was released like, in 2020, and that was also a great record. So I'll leave links below. Go check out both of them, please. Please go do so. But um, Waiting for Your Colors, like I said, I had the chance to listen through to most of it already, and I was just like so enamored by like the growth you guys had gone through from Tough Love to Waiting for Your Colors, and it feels like almost as if like there was so much stuff that was like left unsaid with Tough Love that I feel like you could have that pushed out with Waiting for Your Colors, and it just feels like the proper evolution of your band. Like there were some songs that like I could tell there was obviously I know like your band is pretty diverse in terms of like the types of music they listen to, but you could hear like the wide range of different like styles or certain stuff that like personally I was like they capitalized on in some of the best ways possible, and it's definitely like one of those albums that I am picking up to add to my ever growing vinyl collection, but like as well as that like just the collective of all of these songs were just some of the most I would say is probably one of in my top 10 favorite pop punk records out right now that I genuinely will as soon as we're done I'll probably even like pick obviously I'm picking it up but listen to it more and more because there was even some stuff that I feel like I didn't have the attention to detail to listen to as much just because we were trying to figure this all out but there was just some songs that I was just like all right like they're doing something a little bit different. There's like certain like rhythmic things that they have going on with like the drumming or like the guitar work or the bass lines that or in even the vocals too like that there's so much diversity within the particular songs. And the first one that I listened to not in order was 22 Reasons, and I thought that one was like the perfect representation of like the types of different like musical influences as well as like classic Chief State that I know and love. And when you guys were writing this, did you try to branch out and try to do different things with this record? Because I do feel like there is a lot more. I don't want to say freedom is not. I don't feel is like the right word to describe it, but I do feel like there is that lack of like restraint that you guys had. You're just like, listen, if we're gonna do this album, we're just gonna try to pull from every single aspect we can of Chief State collectively and make like the best record that we feel like we can release. And I feel like that's with most bands, but I would say more specifically for this album, it did feel like you guys just took like you like if Chief State was like a towel, you're wringing that towel out all the way to get all of the great moments out of it. And I think you guys did a great job of kind of again having that emotional aspect of lyricism but also just like the musicality to back that. So did you guys spend like a lot more time in the studio really like I guess methodically thinking about like how the record's going to sound and how these lyrics are going to play with the music at hand?
Mhm. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with it being a full length.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
like with Tough Love, we were kind of in between a full length and an EP
Mhm.
with 7 tracks, and I think with everything we've released before, it's always been on smaller plays, and with that in mind, you always want to have some consistency, or
Sure.
it
Yeah.
needs to be coherent. So kind of I would say experimenting a lot. We haven't really had that much freedom to be able to do that because of the limited amount of songs. And
Sure,
like,
sure, sure.
well, this is what we're focusing on. This is what we want to do. So let's get these songs out. And I think on Tough Love, we kind of played around a little bit. Choke is a little different
Yeah.
than some of the other tracks, but on the album, I think it definitely opened up a little bit of freedom like that because the penultimate track, Kills the Love, Taunts the Free. I wrote that like 10 years ago. It's about like
Oh
the passing of
wow.
my grandmother, and that's been in our repertoire, in our back pocket for a long time, and we always rated it as a song, and it's obviously very different to what we normally release. So I think doing a full length, you have that kind of freedom to put a bit of a curveball in there, and play around a little more. And yes, it's a strange situation. We did spend more time trying to think, how can we do what we like doing and
Yeah.
do, the fast pop punk aggressive stuff, but also put a twist on it and also make it a little less out of the box and a little more unique. And I think we focused on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
wrote a lot of songs, and at that point, it's like, okay, how do we make this coherent and bring them in together? But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you can definitely hear that with 22 Reasons, like you say. It's definitely got more of a poppy influence. And then songs like Team Wiped, I think, although
Yeah.
that's you got a pretty classic chorus on that, it's quite a different way of doing a pop punk song, I would
Yeah.
say. The verse is a lot more stripped back, and I think Nick's using a form of a jazz chord for the most part, which is a little different, and a, a lot of kind of rhythmic stuff that we throw in there. So it's a situation where we kind of went into it thinking, let's what can we do different?
Yeah.
How can we keep this fresh? And we're happy with how it came out, and somehow we managed to bring it all in together where it does sound cohesive as well. So
Yeah, I think you guys like looked at the box and just thought, well, what can, like obviously we love pop punk, we want to keep in that sort of lane, but what are some of the things that we can maybe like add on top of the box that would like maybe be more, more in what we do, or however you want to approach it. And I felt like you guys respected pop punk in the way that I, know and love it, but I also feel like you took a lot of risk in some of these songs, like Team Wiped. I thought that one was really like one of the ones that kind of stood out to me a little bit more, almost in the kind of lane that like um, your former label mates Belmont does, where they have that kind of like, more like rhythmic way of going about, their guitar chords or like the bass lines or some of the drum rhythms and stuff. And I think that the intentionality of that really made me think like, okay, they're not trying to like make another neck deep record, or they're not trying to make another, knuckle puck record or something like that. There is some and that's not to knock any of those bands. I love both of those bands very dearly, but I think that the inner reflective nature of pop punk is that like you're like, okay, well, we can write, these like power chords, and we can kind of do it the way that, every, most pop punk bands have done it. But the way that you guys kind of looked at it from like an outside perspective is like, okay, like you were talking about Frasier with the 22 Reasons, that has more of a like pop hooks to it. And then, you got stuff that's got like little bits of like, I would say like progressiveness, where it's like, okay, you can hear like some of the influences that, obviously are not pop punk related, but somehow make its way into a pop punk track. And I think that, at least for me, that someone who's been listening to pop punk for a long time, I think you guys made it very refreshing and something that I will again probably go back and listen to multiple times, just because it's of its uniqueness and the way that you guys were able to kind of craft those songs. It kind of reminds me a lot of the trajectory of another famous Canadian pop punk band, like Pacific, where they kind of have like that real angsty sort of sound, but then they keep reinventing how they do their stuff, but still kind of again keep within their lane. So I do appreciate what you guys do, and then, again, the whole evolution of what Chief State's doing is just really well done. So I wanted to give you the kudos for that. But the next question I have for you, Frasier, I'm sure this is like asking your favorite child, but do you have a song that resonates with you the most on Waiting for Your Colors?
yeah, um, I've been asked a couple of times, and I think I've given a couple of different answers, but
Fair enough.
um,
Fair enough.
I I think for me, at the moment, my favorite might be 22 Reasons, um, because I like the simplicity of it. I
Fair
think
enough. Yeah.
it's a very simple pop song with a kind of I guess like quite a high and powerful chorus,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
melody and hook, and and it does that song has a lot of meaning to me about a previous breakup. So I mean, I think that one's a yeah. They're all pretty personal, in fairness. All the
Yeah.
lyrics are mostly about me having a quarter life crisis, but uh,
I
but
feel
I think
that.
yeah, I think that one at the moment probably is favorite. I know some of the other guys really like "Wasting Away" as well, which is quite
Ooh.
a bit of a weird song as well. You know, if he comes in with like an anthemic kind of chorus
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
why the fuck, you know. So I don't know. That was a weird song as well, with the lyrics that say "Why the fuck." I don't know. We wanted to change it actually, but those were Nick's words, and he was like, "No, we're sticking with why the fuck." So it's definitely there's some interesting stuff we've done on there, and I'm proud of everyone. But yeah, I'd say at the moment, 22 Reasons is probably the one um, that I would say is my favorite.
There we go. Well, guys, you let us know what your favorites are in the comments below. I would probably say thus far, I mean, again, I haven't listened to all of it, but I think, oh, man, that's tough. The the first track, Continental Drift, was really good. That was a fantastic opener, but I don't know. Team Wiped got me. Like that one just hit all of the notes for me, no pun intended. Like that one was the one that stuck out to me the most so far. But again, right now I think that's probably the one I would choose, but if you probably ask me tomorrow, I might have a different answer. So, but I that's one I would say very much like you, if I had to change my answer the next day I probably would, but for right now, Team Wiped is on the vibe right now. So, um, but the next question I have for you, Frasier. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you can speak for yourself on this, but or maybe the band collectively too. But were there any specific bands that you guys were listening to at the time that influenced Waiting for Your Colors, and just kind of the overall like ideology of like wanting to kind of branch out and do different things?
Um, it's a tough one. I wouldn't say there was a particular band that was influencing me at the time. I've I've got a kind of my set of influences, I would say, of a lot of bands from a lot of different genres. But
Sure, sure, sure.
and I think in a lot of senses that now writing, I'm not so much leaning on other bands, and I've kind of got a way of writing, whatever I feel like writing almost, which
Sure,
is
sure, sure.
kind of why we have a bit of diversity on this album because there's a lot of I'll write 30 different songs and only half of them are pop punk or 20 or so. But I'm not sure. I can't say that there was a particular band. I know that a couple of the songs were pandemic songs.
Sure, sure, sure.
A lot of it was actually written kind of before and just the start of the pandemic, but um, a lot of it is to do with kind of reassessing where you are in life
Sure,
and
sure.
choices you've made. And I mean, for me, I obviously have traveled across the world to come and be away from my family and to start a life here. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of questions when you're kind of reaching 30, like, what the hell am I doing? um,
I ask
you
myself
know,
that every day.
yeah, exactly. Why am I running around trying to play music during a pandemic? So a lot of those kind of situations, and I guess the time were the main influence in this album. And I can't speak for Nick because a lot of particularly Team Wiped and Continental Drift, you can kind of hear they're quite similar in the way that
Yeah.
they're written musically. And I can't speak for him, but I know that he kind of wrote them around that same time as well. Um, he's working on another project as well, so maybe he's got some more indie influences that are coming in for some of that. But yeah, for the most part, I would say it's yeah, kind of to do with the time as opposed to other bands
Bands.
that we were listening to.
Yeah, no, I appreciate like I will say even I felt like lyrically even in Tough Love you were pretty direct in terms of the types of lyricism that you go about. But I think even more so, I think you tapped into that energy just a little bit more so, and I feel like a lot of people, unfortunately, tapped into that sort of energy as well. So, I could certainly resonate with some of the things like you mentioned, like getting towards your 30s. I'm turning 30 next year, so like that that door is vastly opening as I continue to live. So that's always something interesting. But um, I do find like there's a lot of a lot of lyrical things that I kind of that I resonated with, like Burning Down, definitely. Losing Sleep was another one that I felt like I was kind of like, as we were just going through some of the songs and listening through to some of them, obviously you weren't, I was just listening through and trying to help you out. But I was reading the lyrics and I was like, you did mention that this is very much like a pandemic sort of record, and I think lyrically, obviously, you could tell that sort of, that sort of frustration, or the way that people felt during that time. And I think I can look at some of the lyrics and be like, oh yeah, I definitely felt that way for sure. And I think that's one of the coolest things about music, is that there's ways that you can find that can make it relevant to you, or obviously collectively everybody's experienced the pandemic, so I feel like we can all kind of resonate with that sort of feeling, or energy. But I just felt like I felt like much more than even previous records, this one just hit the chest a little bit more than I felt like maybe previous records have done. So I think lyrically it just is so strong, and then I think musically it's equally as strong. So I think that's kind of the reason why I just like, when I was listening through to it, I was like, man, I'm like kind of hoping Frasier figures it out, but that's also the same time I was like, I want to keep listening to it because it was really just engaging. And again, I've enjoyed it thus far. I think I only have Sakura left. Um, but I think it's just like really well executed, and like the whole lyricism behind certain things within your life, and I think even things that I can resonate with, like people passing away, certainly, and that sort of emotion that you feel when someone does pass away. I think that you can definitely feel just the wide range of emotions that this album brings, but in a way that I feel like pop punk does, where it's like, okay, you can be mad, but like the music's gonna really get you by and stuff. And I feel like that you guys kind of like hit those two lanes super well. And again, I can't recommend this album enough, so go check it out below. Um, but the next question I have for you, Frasier, always a fun question I like asking whenever I have people on. But what are you currently listening to? What's on your Spotify? What are you listening to lately?
Yeah, let's have a look. Have a look. Oh man, this is probably a weird time. Okay, well, let's start off with the ones that, the actual answers, and as opposed to my weird search history.
What you do
Uh,
whatever you want. You can tell me whatever you want. I don't care.
Between You and Me, the album that they just dropped is incredible. Armageddon. So I think they have hit the ball out of the park with this album. It's so good. They worked with Sam Guyana. He's
Oh,
the guy who also mixed our record. So
shout out to Sam.
a shout out to him. Phenomenal guy, and great mixer. We also came across a couple of bands in Texas. So really like, I've been listening to, I just lost it, Dozer and uh, yeah, Rare Bloom. So those guys are really
Oh,
awesome as well.
shout outs.
Um, yeah, and then Young Culture, they've just released a bop of a single, or I think it's coming out tomorrow. But there's clips of it floating around, and it's incredible.
It
So
is.
that's a very good song as well. And then for my weird search history, is recently, as in like the last couple of days, um, I heard this song by Gabrielle Aplin, and it just has like this, I would say, 80s or 90s rom-com piano sound to it. Uh, and I was like, where do I find songs like this? And so like I've been searching like 90s piano pop music, to find that kind of feel good vibe to get me through the week. But yeah, I've been finding some pretty cool stuff. So that's what I've been listening to. And then also I should do a massive shout out to With the Punches. We played with those guys in Chicago. Um, Incredible band, obviously. Uh, Kind of been on hiatus for a couple of years, but they just dropped an EP.
Yes,
I think
yes,
it's
they
called
did.
Discontent or Disconnected. Discontent, I think. But they've just dropped that a couple of months ago, and it is so good.
I can't agree as a resident pop punk fan for a long time. Like I was like I remember when they like broke up and I was just like so like getting very much getting into the scene, and then obviously I saw a post with them getting back together and I was like, oh, thank God. Like that's so cool. So big shout outs to them. I feel like very underrated band that again you should go check out because I don't think a lot of people really know how vital or how crucial With the Punches was as a band and collective. So I always have to give some big love to them.
In-
They're awesome.
Incredible influence. I mean, they took out Real Friends on their first ever tour.
Yes,
They
yes they
took
did.
out Eight Champs for like their first ever couple of shows or something. They took out The Story So Far,
Yeah.
or maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm getting confused there. But they also they were touring the UK, and Neck Deep played their very first ever show opening for With the Punches. So like, there's always like, big players that have had direct influence from With the
Yeah, yeah,
Punches.
yeah.
You know, they did an amazing job of at least helping these bands out, or taking these bands out when they were kind of doing their thing. And yeah, it was incredible to kind of find out all that stuff because those are massive bands today, and
Yeah. Whew.
With the Punches kind of went a different route, and maybe things didn't work out so well, but for them. But they're back and they're appreciating every single moment of it, and just fantastic people.
Oh, 100%. With the Punches, if you come to Philadelphia, I'll come out and see you guys, certainly. Um, the next question I have for you, Frasier, I usually ask this question when I go through the live track by tracks, but I figure I'd throw it on here as a fun question that maybe you probably know the answer to. What song, in terms of from like the demo stages till currently, what you hear on the record, which song changed the most in the studio? Because that's always, as someone who is just very much like in the weeds with bands, like that is something that always is a surprising fact, as well as just something that I genuinely just love to know the answer to.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I think, well, we did a lot of pre-production, which was good. So
Nice. Okay.
we work with a guy named Tim Creviston here in Vancouver, and so we had quite a bit of back and forth, at least before getting to the studio. So there were basically, by the time we walked in, we were good to go, and everything kind of stayed the same at that point. Minor tweaks and changes here and there.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
Um, and I would say for the most part, yeah, we did a lot of self-editing before getting into the studio. Um, a lot of the stuff I write isn't. I think when I write and record stuff and record demos, I do it very quickly because I'm like, I've got this idea.
I gotta throw it
I
all in here. Yeah, I got you.
exactly, and then there's a period of you know weeks afterwards where I go back and make it not shit. Um, so there's
As you
already
do.
quite a
As you
lot.
do. Yeah.
There's already quite a bit of editing. I would say maybe Drown did a lot of changing, so that song sounded quite different to what it ended up being. We've got this whole big, well, I guess slow outro to that
Yeah. Yeah.
song,
Yeah.
um, and that was never like that. We kind of, I guess that song kind of did a standard bridge and then back into a chorus, and I think everyone was just sick of me writing the same sounding song, I guess. But
Fair enough. Fair enough.
it was pretty frustrating, as it always is, to get it thrown back in your face. But it meant that we kind of worked on a couple of ideas or how it could go, kind of like a
Sure.
vibe, and and that's what led to that whole ending. So that was, it was great criticism and feedback from the other guys, to get it where it is. Definitely, that's a song that I would say on any other given day that could be. I would say that that's my favorite song. But so that one went through quite a lot of changes. I'd also say Out for Me and Team Wiped went through a lot of lyric changes,
Oh, okay.
massive melody and lyric changes. I think from and that was good and needed. Um, I think my first couple of shots at Team Wiped were awful. That was a song that Nick wrote, so then he gave me the song, and I wrote
Sure, sure.
lyrics over the top, and yeah, just wasn't quite getting the melodies with that one. So that one went through a couple of lyric changes, to get the feeling right. And in the end, the song ended up being about being frustrated with my bandmates. Uh, Another day in this broken state, in this broken chief state. So that's kind of how we got the that's how I got the blood, kind of boiled and going in the end, is that kind of level of frustration by being told that all of my stuff was crap, and in the end we got something good out of it. So I mean, take what you want from that.
It
Maybe
could be, yeah.
that's the kind of criticism I have to go through. I have to go through that emotional roller coaster to get anything good out of me. So, but yeah, so I'd say those ones. Drown changed a lot, and Out for Me and Team White changed a lot lyrically.
I appreciate the honesty because sometimes I feel like bands are just like they. I don't want to say they live on this pedestal, but sometimes you're just like, oh my god, I bet you they don't fight, you know. But then you hear stuff about like Under Oath fighting about like this album and stuff like that, and I'm like, if you don't fight, then how does like some of the best material come out? I mean, arguably. So
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
feel like there's got to be a little resilience.
There's a place for it. You've got to have that, pushback to because you're pushing each other, right? We all have the end goal, and I think we don't necessarily fight at all. We're all good friends, but just definitely I get frustrated.
Yeah, sure.
um,
Yeah.
we're all human, and that can happen. And thankfully, that kind of work ethic to keep improving, is very fundamental to us as a collective. And as much as I might get frustrated, it is needed at times to get something to the level that we want to get to.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think sometimes pain always brings some of the best results. So I would argue that lyric writing is very much in that same sort of lane. And if you're trying to push someone to do something better, or like even same with like instrumentals, like if you're trying to push someone to be like, okay, I think this is what we should do, and then he's like, nope, I don't think that's it, and then you're like, why not? And then I think you come to some sort of resolution, hopefully, and it ultimately winds up making it onto record, and obviously turns out the way it does. And so I think there's a good, like you said, there's a good bit of resiliency, and if you can kind of fight through that resiliency without trying to rip each other's heads off, then I think that's the way to go.
Yep. I mean, it's difficult trying to get five people to agree on something in any walk of life. So having five creative people trying to create something together, it can be challenging, at times. Thankfully, for the most part, it's pretty easy because we all have the same kind of fundamental ideas about what we're doing. So, but yeah, that happens with creativity, and like I say, it's good that we do it. We want to strive for better always, and hopefully that's what we've done with this album. I've gone through a lot of pain to get this album where it is. So hope people enjoy it.
Well, hopefully the next album won't be filled with as much pain. I can't guarantee there won't be any pain, but a little less would probably
I
be
can
nice,
say
right?
I can say with almost certainty there will be pain involved.
Well, I'm gonna
There
be
always
hoping. I'm gonna be hoping there's just a smidge less,
It's good
than.
it's good when there's no pain, when we all agree immediately. It doesn't happen often, but Biding Time comes to mind. That was one where we all went, "Yes, that one."
Let's do it.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's the way it goes.
There we go. Well, Fraser, the next question I have for you, kind of, speaking on that sort of pain about, recording the record. And, we did talk about, recording it during the pandemic. Like, how was kind of the early stages of that? Like, like you said, you were going through the pre-pro stages. I wasn't sure if whether or not you guys were able to like be in the same room together. Do you feel like some of that, again, I know we talked about just having a lot of emotion on that record. Do you feel like a lot of that emotion translated to you guys, like, either doing like kind of similar to this, like video calls, or like, maybe meeting like social distance wise or something like that? How did that kind of process go? And I imagine it kind of affected how you guys write, as well as, some of the emotions and some of the way that you guys felt on this record.
Yeah, it definitely played a massive part. We went fully remote for a long time, and at that time, actually, right at the start of the pandemic, Nick actually moved into my apartment,
Oh,
and me
wow.
and him did the core of the writing, so we were able to work on a lot of stuff together. Um, but I mean, quite often as well, we'll write individually and then come together. So,
Gotcha.
we did have that chance. But yeah, for the others, there was a period of time where I think it went 6 months where we just didn't. Canada was a lot stricter than the US, and
Yes.
for a lot longer. But we went 6 months without actually physically seeing each other, um, which it was definitely difficult, and we missed each other.
Sure,
Seeing
sure,
as we
sure.
did, I think we kind of did it on the sly when we weren't supposed to be meeting up, but we finally did it because we just needed it for mental health, and
Sure.
we all
Yeah,
hung
yeah, yeah.
out and had a really good time. But that it definitely affected the way this album was written because it was pretty much fully remote. Um, there's pros and cons to that, but I guess, being the vocalist, when we practice together, I don't have a guitar with me, so I don't kind of have much of a say of how things move,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and which is kind of difficult for me because I have a massive hand in what we write and what we release. So
Sure, sure, sure.
um, doing it remote and doing a demo and then sending it to the guys and kind of um, getting feedback and making edits that way. That personally works better for me. I know I'm sure some of the guys would prefer to write more in a room together, but yeah, personally, it doesn't work so well for me because I don't have an instrument in front of me,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's how it affected us, and we just dealt with it that way. And like I say, I think it's our best material to date, so it must have worked out well.
I can't agree. Like there's so much awesome. If I could describe it in one adjective, I think it's just authentic, and I think that, to me, as someone who has been listening to your band for, roughly 4 to 5 years, and seeing the progression of, not only lyrically but musically as a band, I think that you're definitely putting your best foot forward, and obviously hope great things come out of that. Not only that, but as well as just, I hope more people find out about your band, because I know for myself, I feel like I've been trying to get you guys out there, and I'm glad that people were being so responsive on the previous tour that you guys just went on. And I hope that the responsiveness of your band continues to grow, because legitimately, this is, to me, a pretty underrated record that I don't think too many people are really talking about. And so, not only did I want to have you guys back on, because I love having you guys on, but also the fact that I felt like this is a very underrated record that I hope that my audience goes and checks out and listens to, because I think there's just a lot of heart. There's a lot of great musicality to it as well, and I think you guys find that great line of being able to tell a story, but also, just having the great music behind it. So, again, check below, guys. Go buy it if you can. And then, speaking about the merch thing, I did have to ask this because I haven't been able to find it anywhere online, so I need to know the answer
Mhm.
behind it. You have this merch that says "I hate Chief State." I need to know the story, the lore behind it, because I'm sure there's something out there that I might have missed, but I'm curious how that kind of started, because I did see a bunch of merch and things of that nature relating to it, and I was just like, why would someone say that? I was like, that's terrible. So I need to know what
Oh,
happened.
I think we don't take ourselves too seriously as people. I would say, we like to, not to say that we're not serious about what we do at all, but we like to have a joke, and it's just self-deprecating humor. I think Nick was the one who coined it first. Would have been 2019, around the summertime, because we got the shirts just before we played with the Wonder Years in Vancouver, which was
Yes.
incredible. But yeah, we got the shirts for that show. And I'm not sure what was going on, but maybe Nick had something going on. But I guess he had this feeling of like, wow, everyone in this city hates us, so let's just do a T-shirt, and we did. But yeah, I don't know what to say. It's one of our best sellers. So is that good or is that bad? Yeah, who knows? But I still find it funny,
It
and
is funny, yeah. I'll give
we
it the
def
credit.
we definitely do get people that say, "Hey, I don't want that one. I like you guys." But I don't know. I think it's funny. I
It's the
think, and if
irony.
anything, exactly, and if anything, a shirt like that it's not much to it. Just says "I hate Chief State." I think that causes more of a reaction than just standard band T-shirt
Sure,
design.
yeah.
Because I think people are going to say, "What the hell is Chief State?" You know what I mean? And that probably gets a bit more conversation. So yeah, it's a design that we will probably keep. We actually sold out of a lot of merch whilst we were on tour, and we
Good to
were
hear.
desperate. So we had to stop. I think we were in Louisville, and we had to find somewhere to print something in one day.
What? Oh my
And
god.
they were like, yeah, they said one day, okay, we need something really simple. So we brought that T-shirt back for the last week or two of tour, and
That's awesome.
sold out again. Like, so I don't know what to say. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. But
I just wanted to ask because I was on your website and I saw that you guys have an I Hate Chief State hat, and I'm like, I want to wear this, but I also am like not the type of hateful person, so I feel like for me to wear something like that, it would just fly against my whole like nature of being a nice person. So they're like, why would you wear a shirt that says I hate Chief State? Like, I'm sure they're nice people. And I was like, funnily enough, they're my friends. So like, I feel like I get the understanding of like it's a conversational thing and everybody gets like a little humor because it's again a self-deprecating, a b it's ironic. So guys, let me know in the comments, should I buy I hate Chief State hat and then ironically wear it in an interview, because I just feel like, I don't want to hate Chief State, but if it's a popular item, I'm not gonna hate it. No pun intended, certainly. But I appreciate the lore behind it, Frasier. just like I had looked on it when I was looking through, to find like vinyl and stuff, and I was like, an I hate Chief State hat and shirt. Like, man, someone must have like the hat and the shirt and wear them together, and then they're like, why the fuck would you like go wear that out? Like,
well, that's it. It also works for people that don't like us. I mean, we still got the merch for you. You know what I mean?
it works either way. It's the ultimate marketing. Like, it's either like you legitimately actually hate them, or you like hate them ironically, and then
Yeah.
but then you're just buying it to support them. So then, either way, the tagline, that I live by is that haters make me famous. So I feel like if anything, I should pass that off to you guys, because you literally have put it on a shirt and people have bought it. So fair enough. But the last thing, Frasier, that I have for you here, for people who have watched this entire interview, thank you for watching, first and foremost. Um, but the thing that I've been asking recently in terms of the interviews I've done, is just, what do you want people to take away from Chief State, whether it be, from a lyrical perspective or a musical perspective, or kind of a combination of the two. I know with this album, I felt like you put a lot of heart, a lot of energy, a lot of emotions. And so, what do you want people to take away from Waiting for Your Colors, as well as like Chief State generally?
Yeah. I think it's a great thing about music in that it's completely personal
Hmm.
to any, to everyone, essentially. I can pinpoint times in my life and I can associate records with it and things like that. And I think it's a very powerful tool. So to be honest, I'm happy if anyone can take, any kind of joy or feeling or emotion or anything from it.
Sure.
Um, I think there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of angst in there, but there's also a lot of coming of age kind of theme. There's a lot of questions that I personally ask myself, and I'm sure a lot of people, maybe go through the same thing and ask themselves similar questions. So,
Sure.
if there's any kind of anything people can grab from that and it help, that's phenomenal. That's great. I personally just hope people like the way it sounds and like the music. I hope it, gets people pumped up. Whatever anyone can take from it, we're forever grateful and extremely grateful to be able to share it with the world. So if you like what you hear, please continue to share with friends, with family, with anyone. That's kind of what we want to do and what we want to be, and we just want as many people as possible to hear it and go from there.
Yeah, no, and obviously, guys, links below. I feel like I've been beating a dead horse with that one, but for real, they're down there. But like I said earlier, like lyrically, I think, and just I think the best version of Cheese State was released with this record, and so as a fan, and not only as a person that interviews you guys quite frequently, I think for me it just being kind of so closer, closer to the action that I feel like most people have, just to see the growth of your band and just kind of see the like the coming of age kind of a thing where the lyricism I felt like blossomed on this record, as well as just like the musicality to kind of back that and keep it original, keep it fresh. And so for me, this is going to be in heavy rotation in terms of the albums, and I can almost be guaranteed it will probably end up on my favorites of the end by the end of this year, just for its memorability. I think in and of itself, like you can attach yourself to a lot of the emotions that were felt on this record, as well as probably some of the lyrics as well. And so, I really implore people to kind of like, take the time to listen to it, take the time to like read the lyrics. I know that's kind of like a pain in the ass considering that most people, don't do that. But I genuinely try to, this time around, like really listen to the music, really listen to the art that was created. And so, I hope that people will do the same, and put a lot of these guys put a lot of heart and time into this album, much like a lot of bands during that time frame. But I really feel like they came out with probably the best version of Cheese State I've heard, since they started out. And so would definitely recommend giving it a listen. And that's the perfect segue to the next thing I have for you, Frasier, which is the last thing. Tell the people where they can find Chief State at, where they can buy merch, vinyl, anything relating to your new album, as well as anything coming up in the next couple months.
Mhm. In terms of listening, we're on every platform online. We're even in Canada now. We did have a
What?
couple of hiccups getting it out in Canada, but we're in Canada.
Woo.
We're on Spotify, all of the platforms. So wherever you like to listen, go and listen. For merch, we have merch on chiefstate.com. We also have merch on mutantleaguerecords.com. And we are shortly opening a new store. So follow us on social media. Most of the time, like at Chief State. I think Twitter is at Chief_State. You can find us by searching Chief State. Um, and yeah, keep up with that. We've got some really cool merch coming out very shortly. So keep your eyes peeled. Hope everyone enjoys the album. Listen to the album in order. We put a lot of thought into like how the songs transition. So yeah. Oh yeah, I hope everybody enjoys it.
There we go. Well, again, go check out Chief State's newest record, Waiting for Your Colors. All of the links will be below to either go purchase it from their store, or you can go purchase it at Mutant League. Not gonna lie, the Mutant League one, the variant, on point. Definitely have to. It's in my cart right now. So as soon as this is over, I'm putting it on my credit card and buying it. But seriously, probably again one of my favorite pop punk records to release this year, and it should be yours too. So go check it out. And then go check out Tough Love. Again, awesome EP. Doesn't get enough love, so you should go give it some love. And then if you enjoyed this interview, share, like, and subscribe. It goes a long way. And huge thanks to Frasier for coming back on, I think for the third time now. So appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me again.